taking a while. Did it say it's recording it?
Yes.
Yeah, when I joined it.
Yeah, there's a little recording indicator on the screen share.
Recording started.
Okay, that's better. Did anyone get the beep?
I didn't hear a beep, but I see the indicator that says it's recording.
Okay, well, it says recording, but normally you guys get a little pop-up.
I got a pop-up.
Oh, did you? Okay, well then, I'm just
the meeting's being recorded.
okay. So then, I'm just being an idiot, and now all of that will be recorded. Great. All right. Welcome to May 12th Java Operators Meeting. Hope everyone is doing well. This meeting is being recorded. Don't say anything you don't want to be on the internet forever at one point in time. Okay. Do we have any new faces that would like to introduce themselves? No, looks like I recognize everyone. Okay. Easy enough. Okay, for community interests, I canceled next week's meeting, the 19th. Next week is KubeCon. I will not be here, and I suspect other folks will be either at KubeCon, watching KubeCon, or doing something KubeCon related, so figured just remove it from the schedule. We will resume the following week on the 26th. Ish, if you are around, would you mind running that one? I will be on PTO.
Yes, I'm actually out at the beginning of that week, but I will be back for Thursday's meeting.
Okay. So the 26th, I'll have you host that one, and we'll resume. Anyone else have any other community interests they'd like to bring up?
There's a thing I watched as part of Red Hat Summit. It was on Apache Kafka and Quarkus. The premise was that you were trying to get telemetry from a Formula One team, but the it was pretty well done. The presentation is well done. If you look it up in Summit, just search on Formula One, the number one, and it is it's a nice, just a nice flow. And there was a lot of stuff I was learning. I mean, I know somewhat about Kafka, but there was a lot of stuff I was I guess pleasantly surprised by how easy it was to accomplish. And some of that was with a Quarkus app to do some real-time data calculation on the stream. Obviously, a lot of advantages from Java, being able to use it reactively and deal with the stream data that was coming through. The Java lines were very sparse. Yeah, it was a cool demo. It's only a half hour. It's Paolo Paterno and Tom Cooper of Red Hat presenting.
That's awesome. That sounds cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'll find the link and add it to this agenda.
All right, I'll try and paste it into the chat now, actually.
Okay. Anyone else have any, I guess, announcements or anything they need to bring up?
No, I think just maybe that we're probably going to make the release of 3.0 next week. So let's see.
Cool. All right. Just go into triage, and then we can, if there's any deep dives that come out of that, we can go do that. Okay, let's check this guy out. Oops. Let me check the small one. Set up scaffold, decouple. These are the same. Let's see if we need to do a release or not. A couple items. Sure, SDK 304 273. That was the last one. And if I look here, yeah, we should probably do a release of the plugins. Okay, let's go back to the Java one. Okie dokie. Let's move this out of the way. Got a few that came in just a couple hours ago. Unable to connect to Kate's. No. Unable to connect to Kate's. Okay. I have a problem connecting Kate's. So they're trying to connect to their Kine cluster. Yeah, I didn't think they had to do anything. If you have a valid kube config, you should be able to.
Yeah, basically, empty constructor should just work with the client.
Okay. I can actually respond to this one with that. Oops. So I'll respond. Let's see. This one came in yesterday. Reconciliation of persistent volume claim. The objects gives null pointer exception. That's weird.
It turned out some issue, I think, with Quarkus, not in the operator SDK itself. If you scroll down, I think they're already solving it some.
Oof. Okay. Okay, so in JVM mode it works, but in Quarkus it doesn't. Would it be Quarkus extension or just Quarkus itself?
I think it's, I don't know.
I'll put it there. If it doesn't, I don't know if Fabricate's related or not, but. Attila, do you guys usually just assign these or?
Yes, usually we assign it. I think this will probably go either for Chris and we will usually ping someone then from the Fabricate team if I think this will be the case.
It's fair. Okay. Always get latest custom resource.
This is interesting. We can, if there is time and somebody is interested, we can talk about this. I think this is not possible in general. So I literally spent 3 hours drawing events yesterday into a sheet and try to figure out. I mean, it's possible, just it's quite complex to implement, and we probably won't do that.
Okay. We can probably table that to the end then. It sounds like an interesting discussion if we want to go deeper. Release process for RC shouldn't update the version to next patch release. Okay.
So this is meanwhile before this issue I actually did a patch. The RC release doesn't update the version at all. I think just it was a mistake, or not mistake, it was just Chris thought it's doing that, but it's actually not. It was something else was updating it before. Maybe manually someone, or I don't know.
Okay.
Actually this issue might be closed eventually. Maybe we'll take a look.
I'll leave that one there. And then resources. Resource updates during reconciliation. Okay. Resource updates during reconciliation causes status update error. Well, then we started seeing the following.
Yeah, it's expected stuff. So what happens for them is if somebody changes the resource while the reconciliation is happening and the status is updated with the optimistic locking, then it fails with a conflict, which
Yeah.
should be. It's a very interesting case, by the way. This operator, it's for Flink, which is a kind of a data mining tool.
Mm-hmm.
I think these guys from Apple and Alibaba. This is a kind of an interesting team working on that operator. And we had a basically call with them. So this is our classic problem with external resource state management, and was looking into this. And yeah, maybe I can brief it. This is related to the previous issue. Yeah, and I can maybe talk about it a little bit more after.
Okay.
It was quite interesting.
So not this one, but what's the other one? Oh, that one. Put that in the agenda. Then okay. 1198. Filter events. It looks like you guys already have this. Oh, needs discussion. Informer source. We implemented a feature that makes it possible to not trigger recognize if the update of the secondary resource is made by the controller. Was this related to the other one?
Also loosely. So this is a kind of complex problems, complex system there. We probably won't implement this, and I can basically relate it to those issues partially. So this is actually kind of a doable, but if there is optimistic locking during the update, if there is no, then it's very hard, or even it's not even absolutely correctly possible in all cases.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Now, the thing you pinged me earlier this week about something, was that related to these issues or something different?
Yes.
Okay.
This basically this free, and
Okay.
I think so. Then I spent quite a time to do two prototypes, and now I think I completely understand the topic. So I was actually very happy, and I did a pull request. Now there is a pull request that will basically cover everything as it should be. I think that will end up in 3.0. Basically, will be probably the last one of the last pull requests. That one.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool. What was that issue? Operator should trigger the error state of the CR when deserialization fails.
I think we already talked about this. This is when it happens.
Oh, this was 21 days ago. So okay. It looks like this got covered before. Okay, we'll leave that alone. I think that's all the new issues that haven't been talked about are covered. That's good. That's good. So for that one issue that so the one that you mentioned earlier about what to do with the caches, the one you created a PR for, what did you end up doing?
Yeah, so until now, and basically from version 3, we support the old word way, so the updating the status with optimistic looking, and also support the patching the status without optimistic looking. And basically, it happens that if you are able to do, if you are doing optimistic looking, I describe it somewhere why it makes it possible that you in the next reconciliation, the reconciler will get the most up-to-date resource known by the client. So actually, yeah, it still can happen that it just reconciling, it still gets an update or something just before, and the WebSocket doesn't send it or something. It still can be but it's not really relevant. So if there is optimistic locking during the update, then this is possible and relatively easy to implement to support it. And we do it for the dependent resources and for the update status, if there is a optimistic locking. But if there is no optimistic locking for the patch, it's very hard, or even I would say not really possible without to make it happen, so that we all receive this up-to-date resource. Because there are resources coming in, like updates from the WebSocket.
In the events.
In the events, we cannot really determine if it happened before or after. We could wait for the event with the same resource version. But for example, if the connection fails, and then it's the next connection, when we basically reconnect again for the watch, there could be multiple updates happening there meanwhile, and this resource version would have skipped. So it's basically without optimistic locking at the end, it's hard to do. At least it's probably not doable to cache it in a proper way. So basically, but anyway, it's not a problem since we are not doing optimistic locking at the end of the reconciliation for update. It won't fail on conflict. So as in normal Kubernetes operators, when you are doing the reconciliation, you don't really care about this because the update status or patch status will just pass. You just have the status of the most recent reconciliation, not the most recent spec. But that's why we usually put there the observed generation, right? So that's why it's there. So at the end, we decided to keep it simple. This is the PI. I decided Chris will review it, but this will be probably the result that we keep it rather simple. The problem is with external resources, and why this is popping up all the time, because people tend to put this state to the status, right? So and why it is not working is two things. I mean, there can so if somebody creates external resource where he needs to save the ID of that resource which is generated, and if he wants to put it into the status, there can be two things. He uses optimistic locking or not. If he's using it, and then we can guarantee that in next reconciliation he gets the up-to-date status, so the recent, so it can be used as an input this from the status. But it can happen that the status update fails because there was optimistic locking. So then this basically we lost this ID generated, and we will be in a kind of inconsistent state or not a desired state. But if we do a patch, and then we are sure basically that the ID will be saved into the resource status. But then again, we are not sure that the next reconciliation will have this status. So it's so then the reconciliation will probably create this resource again. So this is the reason that it should be stored in a config map, not in the status. So this is the practical reason.
Yeah.
Basically, in either cases, it's always correct. In either cases, we cannot achieve correctness in either cases in all situations.
Okay.
But we can do it with config maps, because if we are putting it on config map, if even the creation of the config map with temporary network error fails, we can just in place retry it, and that's basically the best we can anyway do. So with in a cluster.
Okay.
So to be honest, my biggest benefit, at least just understood that it's not by definition. So Kubernetes status should be a result of a reconciliation and shouldn't be used as an input, but not just because there are some technical limitations of how the Kubernetes API server is defined and built up. There is a technical limitation to not and shouldn't be used the status as a state, the place where you store state, basically. So there are technical reasons too, and even if it won't happen all the cases, or it will just very rarely happen, once in a million in some cases, it will happen, and we cannot make it correctly. We cannot implement it correctly with this current approach. So the request was from the guys from Flink Operator is if we cannot change it in a way that the status, if we update the status without optimistic locking, then we always in the next reconciliation guarantee that we get a latest resource that has been updated by the operator as an input. And this is very, very hard to guarantee. I think it's possible, but it would be require lots of changes in the Fabricate client. And if events can be lost during, that's why today I asked in the API machinery this, then even it's not possible. But I don't want to go, it's really complicated. So it's basically at the end, we are not supporting it. We advise them to do it as I think others advised here already. And we discussed a few times that the state of an external resource, if you want to store it, should go to the config map or a separate custom resource which stores it. And that solves the problem.
So they were trying to, in summary, they were trying to use the status field to store state of an object. And that's why it was kind of, because of the unordered nature, they can get things that seem wrong, but that they should be using a config map to store that. And the status is basically just used to report the result of a reconcile.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So it was working for them because it's working for them until they didn't get the first conflict with the optimistic locking of the update of the status, because then it started, because we are guaranteed that in this case it's easy to guarantee that you in next explanation you get the latest resource we updated, and it was kind of easy to get into this trap to use that. So we'll probably write a blog post or something, because I even see some blog posts now on the Kubernetes operators like that the status should be used for this, and it's clearly wrong. I mean, now I see it even technical perspective clearly why it's wrong.
It sounds like they were getting lucky and then it broke.
Yes.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Okay, well that's good.
And basically all these three issues are related to that. We'll close them. And
Awesome. Okay. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to dig into, discuss? All right. We'll keep it short today then. Awesome, folks. Appreciate your time, and sorry about the little snafu at the beginning. Have a good rest of your day.
thank you.
See y'all in 2
Bye-bye.
weeks.
Thanks.